everyone. Thanks so much for coming to Food Loves Tech. I'm Julie from the feed, and I'm here with James. And we're super excited. Everyone came out to our test kitchen. We've partnered with Vitamix, and throughout the weekend, we have different chefs and influencers coming in to make some of their favorite dishes. Do you want to give a little background on yourself, James?
Yeah, sure. So hello and welcome everybody. My name is James. My day job is the Director of Culinary Research at the Institute of Culinary Education, which you know well.
Yes, I do.
And so in that role, I'm teaching our students at ICE, but I'm also really focusing on technology in the kitchen and innovation. Right? It's a big part of what I do. Through my work at ICE, we wound up in a partnership with IBM to help them develop something called Chef Watson, which was this incredible project that broke down ingredients into where they come from, what cultures typically use them, how they typically appear in recipes, and their flavor structure, the chemical compounds that actually create the flavor in the food, and how we can use that massive amount of information to become smarter, better, more creative cooks.
Awesome.
Through that project, I kind of pulled the inspiration for my new book, which is where this recipe today comes from, which is called The Flavor Matrix. It's not a partnership with IBM, but we're using the same basic information, or not the same basic information, but we're using the same source of information to start to study flavor and understand it better. And I think, a huge part of technology is just information.
Absolutely.
Right, so we're finding this new information and figuring out how we can use it better. I think, for me as a chef, this is information that's been around for a long time. Scientists have long known it, but it's never really been in the hands of chefs. So with our new book, The Flavor Matrix, that's really what we're hoping to do, is totally put this information in the homes of chefs and home cooks and everybody so they can understand their food better.
What are some interesting things that bubbled up to the surface that you uncovered?
One of our favorite ones, I think is like the most surprising to everybody, is the combination of chicken, mushrooms, strawberries.
Interesting.
It's a delicious, phenomenal combination. And that combination works, even though it sounds crazy, right? I mean, if I go and open up my refrigerator and there's some chicken on the bottom shelf and then top shelf there's just some strawberries and mushrooms, I'm slamming the door and all right, we're going out tonight, because there's certainly nothing we can make with those ingredients. But as we started to study this combination, we found these overlapping kind of compounds that create a common thread of flavor between those three ingredients. Gamma-dodecalactone, which I'm sure you know well. But it's this really kind of wonderful, tropical, almost fruity aroma that is actually in high concentrations in all three ingredients.
Interesting.
So you find it in
chicken,
you find it in the mushrooms, and you find it in the strawberries.
Yeah.
So while it may not be one of the first things you taste in any of those ingredients, it's there and kind of ties those together. So that's what a lot of the research, that we were doing for this book, kind of the way it worked. That's how we landed with pumpkin, coconut, and mint today.
Awesome.
As a combination, as a base for some tacos that we're going to make.
Awesome. You want to get started?
Yes, so we will get started. So I'm gonna start the boring part and just throw some garlic and onions in the pan while we continue to talk a little bit. And one of my favorite parts about this book and this project, oh, there we go.
Yeah. I think it needs to be,
My tech support here, keeping me in line. Is starting to understand our ingredients better and sort of what, really how we think about this. And I think, so often with any ingredient, we have a lot of preconceived notions of what they go with. When I say pumpkin, you think, I don't know, what do you think?
Pie.
Pumpkin pie, right? So you're thinking cinnamon and pecan and, and all of that.
Right.
And so we definitely have these really strong associations of what we think, what ingredients we think are supposed to go together. And one of the great things for me has been to be able to kind of just think about the ingredient itself and start without any of the preconceived notions, and analyze the flavor and start building up new dishes from that. So when we talk about pumpkin, really the conversation should start, and the way we should think about pumpkin is as a melon.
Yep.
That's technically what it is.
Right.
And even though we don't have the sugar that the melon does, we have a lot of the same flavors in the pumpkin, as a melon. So, something like mint is actually is one of the, when I think melon, mint is one of the first things I think of.
Yeah.
Right? So now we can go down that road and we can be playing with mint and lime and lemon and all of these typical, you know, what we would think of as melon combinations.
Right.
We realize actually work really well with pork as well. So that's kind of where we're gonna take this. This is just onions and garlic right now, starting a little bit of base, and then we've got our pumpkins. But what we're gonna add into the base here in a moment is our mint stems and cilantro stems, which we're using mint later in the dish, but just a way to kind of layer those flavors, but also reinforce or, you know, kind of create new flavors.
Awesome.
In here as it all goes. Do we have the salt?
Yeah, we do.
Down there, there's some salt. Just a little bit of salt to get going. And then, while that's still cooking a minute, I'll come over here. This is one of my favorite tricks, and this was from my previous life at Restaurant Danielle. We're gonna make this beautiful mint extract in the Vita Prep. And this is one of these incredible things that really can only happen in a Vita Prep.
Yeah, in the Vitamix.
In the Vitamix, excuse me.
Yes.
When I was a kid,
Yes.
cooking in restaurants, it was always the Vita Prep. It is the Vitamix now. So just mint and oil.
Okay.
And what we do, I don't know, can you see that better? We'll get.
Yep.
Right, is just start blending, get that blended, and then we're gonna bring it all the way up to high. And because this thing is so powerful, as it's spinning and spinning and spinning, it starts to create a lot of friction, starts to generate heat. And what we're gonna wind up doing is actually, right now it doesn't look great. It's gonna look much better because we're gonna wind up blanching the mint into the oil.
Right, it's gonna heat up.
It's gonna heat up, and it's gonna cook a lot of, cook a lot of the water out of the mint as well. So, you know,
You wanna take that out? It might splatter
well,
up.
it is gonna splatter a lot.
Yeah. I think it's
But
okay.
we can see, you know, already some steam coming out. Yeah, let's do that. Ready? We'll make a quick swap, and we go. All right. So as that heats up and spins for a couple of minutes, we're also, you know, releasing steam from there.
Right.
So that's actually cooking, and then we're really blasting and infusing that mint into the oil, which we then can strain out. We're gonna have an intensely flavored mint oil with an incredible color and this really great body.
I'm excited.
Okay, so onions and garlic here, mint and cilantro stems. And, you know, I mean, for me, just as a chef in general, but especially as I've, you know, been studying flavor for these past years, like, I think now so much more about every step of the cooking process. How do we just squeeze a little more flavor into everything we're doing?
And I like that you're using the stems.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, and so I'm using mint, I'm using cilantro here. I have the stems laying around, and when we start to think about flavor as just being this thing that you smell, it doesn't happen on your tongue, it all happens up in your nose. And when you slice in that cilantro stem, it just like punches you in the face with that incredible flavor. So you're like, well, I can harness that, I can use that somehow, right?
Absolutely, right. Why waste it?
Why waste it, exactly. And there's so much wonderful aroma in there. So when we're making a puree, we can layer a little bit of that flavor in there. Stems may not always be the best thing to eat, but there are great ways to use them. All right, so now the pumpkin just went in there, and we'll let that continue to cook for a minute. Thank you.
Sure.
Good catch. How are we looking here?
It's warming up.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Steam coming out of the top. We're getting nice and warm there in the base. So that's beautiful. And so that takes a couple minutes, but it works great. Okay, and then we're cooking here, so now we've got pumpkin, cilantro stems, mint stems, and our onions and garlic, all with the pumpkin, right? And then in a moment when we're gonna add our liquid, we're actually gonna use coconut milk to make the pumpkin puree. You know, again, it could just be cream, it could be regular milk, but it's another opportunity to add a little more flavor into whatever we're doing. So, you know, each step along the way, we want to try to do that.
Okay.
Now,
I'll stir this for you.
wonderful. Our little, you know, kind of condiment that goes with this. I love it as really a topping for many different things, but with the pork that we're cooking here, we're going to talk about our oven in a second because I'm kind of obsessed with this, and they are the future. This is a coconut sambal. So a traditional Sri Lankan condiment, really. And it just starts with a little bit of fresh coconut.
Should I turn this off?
That'd be great. What do you think? I think we probably can.
Okay. We're back. I mean, it's quite warm.
Yes. No, this looks great.
Yeah.
It doesn't look great, actually. This looks terrible. But it will soon look great. So there we just got, a little cheesecloth tied over. And then we just pour that in.
Perfect.
And
watch it go.
Watch it go. We'll see our beautiful green oil start filtering through here in a moment.
Okay, so what do you have going here? Maybe the audience couldn't hear for.
Yes. So this is starting the coconut sambal, which is kind of a traditional Sri Lankan condiment, kind of a sprinkled topping that works on a lot of different things, but often served, with roasted meats or curries as just kind of a nice textural and bright flavor added at the end. So we just take pieces of fresh coconut like this and grate it up. And so this is going to go on top of our pork. So what we're building here are some pork tacos. There's going to be a little bit of this coconut and mint flavored pumpkin puree at the base. We've got some slow cooked pork belly that's going to go on top. And then we're going to finish it off with this coconut sambal. So we're really looking at this what I think is a very interesting flavor combination of pumpkin, coconut, and mint. And those three flavors together, which are a bit unexpected, but work incredibly well.
Let's go back to the chicken, strawberries, and mushrooms.
Chicken, strawberries, and mushrooms.
Did you develop one or more recipes for that combination?
A lot of recipes. That recipe first grew out of the Chef Watson project, and Michael Lascanis, who was one of the other chefs at ICE, and we were partners together.
Yep.
On Chef Watson. He created a beautiful dish that we served at South by Southwest for it. I really love that combination, was just completely obsessed with it. So I kind of took it on my own and started playing with it as well. And the recipe I have for it in the book is a chicken and mushroom burger with strawberry ketchup.
Oh, nice.
Which is really, really incredible. And I think, again, as we start to look at ingredients and think about really what they're all about.
Okay.
And then we're good there. I'm going to go ahead and add that coconut milk.
Okay.
Now for our pumpkin puree.
So any other interesting flavor combinations?
So a lot. In the book, we profile 58 different ingredient categories, right? So we look at berries as a single category.
Yep.
And even though, of course, cranberries and strawberries and blueberries are all very different, a lot of the aromas that they contain that create their flavor are all very similar. And one is a bit more acidic and one is a bit sweeter. And one may have a little more pronounced fruitiness, or one's a little bit more piney. But in general, we can look at all those ingredients together. So that's what we did in the book. I'm trying to think now of. I gotta have a list of this ready. The book's not out till March, so I've got some time to kind of perfect this whole thing. I'm trying to think. What's that?
February.
February. February. It's on February. Never mind. I like that news. That's news to me. You guys get on it. Sorry. So thinking through flavor combinations. Actually, one of my other favorite recipes is this beautiful salad that we do that pulls in a bunch of different combinations. One is beef and cocoa.
Okay.
Which is not super uncommon. You see the
espresso
cocoa and rubs for beef and espresso like that. But we're actually taking a little bit of that same cocoa rub, seasoning avocados with it in the salad that gets served with the beef.
Oh, yeah.
And then serving that with the fig vinegar.
I
So,
love it.
you know, the combination there is vinegar, figs, avocado, and cocoa. Those four really line up incredibly. And another one we saw is, you know, when you were looking at olives. Olives are essentially a fruit.
Yep.
We never ever treat them like a fruit.
Right.
So we tackled olives into a dessert. And we made this beautiful lemon curd that instead of finishing with butter, we finished with olive oil to you know, capitalize on that olive flavor. And then actually in a low oven like this, dehydrated coated olives with honey and then dehydrated them. So there's wonderful,
Yum.
sweet, salty, crispy element.
Sounds amazing.
That's really, really delicious. Put that whole thing
How are we
together.
doing here?
Yeah, it looks pretty awesome. And I think we can, you think it's ready for the blender?
I think so.
I
What
think
did you
so.
just add to the?
Just
So
the
just
coconut.
a little more coconut milk into our puree there, because that looks fantastic. So here I've still got, this is my sambal that we're making. I've got the coconut. I'm gonna chop up a little bit of jalapeno to add to that for just a little bit of spice. We're gonna make our coconut puree. And then we'll talk a little bit about pork and what we're doing with the pork. Actually, you know, pork is another one of my favorite combinations that we came up with. Very, very untraditional. The recipe in the book that goes with the pork chapter is a blueberry and horseradish jam
Oh, yum.
that gets served with pork. It's absolutely, you know, phenomenal.
The
And so-
blueberry and horseradish, that's an interesting combination.
It is. It is, but if you know really pay attention when you're eating a blueberry, there's this slight little kind of woody, piney note in blueberries, and so you know we looked at those compounds and really found a lot of the same ones in horseradish. I realized what a great combination those two made, and they really go incredibly well together. So it's really kind of about understanding what's in the food and pulling out just these tiny little bits here
Pumpkin
and there
coconut milk
that we can
puree.
capitalize on to make something really unexpected and delicious. So that was where the blueberry and horseradish came from.
And in terms of this puree, you want it?
Yeah, pretty smooth.
Okay.
So in the blender there, we've got our pumpkin with mint stems, cilantro stems, and coconut milk. Right, pureeing all of that together. Really because I'm interested in those flavors together and how they work. And pumpkin and coconut and mint is a really, I think, fascinating combination. And so you can see what's happening here, how beautiful this becomes. Now we've added a little bit of turmeric just for a little spice. And a little bit of that kind of nice earthy spice that we add to the coconut. There's some jalapeno for some actual spice heat.
Smells amazing.
Beautiful. That looks great.
Yeah.
And you guys are gonna get to eat some of this, don't worry. I've got some for you. Get it back in the pot and we'll just let it thicken up a little bit.
Yeah, sure. You know what? Let me get this other pot.
And then cilantro, finally, in here. All right.
So I'm just adding it back to the pot to thicken it up a little bit.
And all right, and now we've got a sambal, right? So that's how that whole, really, really, really simple, but a beautiful little thing to have. Like I said, this is really a great topping for roasted meats in any form. It works very well. It works very well for so many grilled beef, grilled pork, really kind of, whatever you're into. But also just kind of a unexpected texture element in salads and on top of roasted vegetables. Also, I think is really fantastic.
We're broadcasting live
I
on
love
the
it.
feed, so I'm just
guys.
sharing with the other audience.
And so here now we've got our pork belly, which is really what everybody came for, right? Was the pork belly. I'm gonna get this in the oven and just get it kind of crisped up, but we already cooked that once. I cooked it sous vide yesterday. which to me brings me kind of to our next topic, which I think the most important when we talk about technology and food, which is where the entire world of food is moving to, which is the temperature control. You know, now that sous vide is available to everybody, because, I mean, even just 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it was extremely expensive to try to get into the sous vide game. Now you can, you know, be fully equipped and operating and cooking sous vide at home for less than $200,
Yep.
Which is absolutely amazing. So as that technology, you know, continues to improve, just what it allows us to do. Again, it's information and control, right? So what controlling temperatures precisely allows us to do and allows us to produce food-wise, like, just really changes everything.
Also, pressure cookers. I mean, last year with the Instant Pot craze.
Yes.
It's really amazing.
I still don't have an Instant Pot. It's just a pressure cooker, right?
It's just a pressure cooker.
It's just a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
All right. I still don't have an Instant Pot. I haven't worked with the Instant Pot. Maybe that's I'm gonna be getting
What's
hate
nice
mail
about it,
now.
and you probably know this, you know,
But I love pressure cookers.
being a parent and, you know, needing to get to dinner on the table
Yep.
really quickly, an Instant Pot really does help with that, because or any type of pressure cooker.
Yeah. No, pressure cookers are fantastic, and I love kind of what they allow us to do. But you know, so the pork cooked for 24 hours at 66 degrees Celsius. I still operate in the Celsius for that, but that is, Jason, what are we, like 162, roughly? 162, give or take. If you guys don't know Jason, Jason's here. He has multiple sous vide books out. That's why he's my go-to on temperature reference.
Can you talk about what quality meat has?
So all right, so at that temperature, you cooked it for, at 66 degrees Celsius, about 162 degrees Fahrenheit for 24 hours. So that's kind of like right on that threshold where we're completely breaking down all of the connective tissue in the meat, but not rendering out all of the fat. We've softened the connective tissue in the fat. We've softened up the fat pretty well. But the meat is going to be just, you know, phenomenally tender, but still have that nice, chewy fattiness that we want in a pork belly, right? If you cook a pork belly for too long, you lose all the fat, and it's just like feels greasy in your mouth. You know, at that temperature, we're kind of just at that right point where you still have the meatiness to the fat, and it's not greasy, and the meat just, you know, would pull apart.
Awesome.
It's really.
I'm excited to try it.
Yes, it's so delicious, and so. You know, again, when we're roasting, right? Maybe we should just broil this now.
I think we should.
Broil.
There we go.
Start broiling. All right, we're broiling now. What are we talking about? Are we talking something about sous vide? Maybe? I don't know.
Just that the
Where are we
meat
going
would
there?
fall apart.
Yeah, and you know, and what I love, about it, just with temperature control, we can get a very specific result for, you know, whatever we're trying to do. If I have a leaner pork belly, I can change my temperature to, you know, really focus on just the perfect cook of that meat. You know, with any type of pork, you know, we have varying temperatures, and it just allows you to achieve exactly what you want. And I think, you know, just like the Instant Pot is fast, but like the convenience of this, like to go on a Saturday and cook, you know, a dozen chicken breasts that'll last you through the week.
It's amazing.
And they're all ready to go, and they stay so well preserved in the refrigerator.
Yeah, they're perfect for food prep, meal prep.
Yeah, it really is. We've got peppers here. They're pickled. They'll come in later.
Nice.
Let's
Let's talk about the oil. How's it coming on?
It's not as green as it should have been. Somebody may have sold me a bad batch of mint. Because we lost a little bit of our color. This kind of looks like olive oil now. Typically with this, we're gonna have like just a deep green oil. So that's not as beautiful as we thought it was going to be.
It's still pretty.
Yeah, it's still pretty.
Yeah.
But it's got this really intense flavor, which really, you know, works so well for this, and just kind of another way to express aroma, which really is what flavor all comes down to. And that's where we, you know, in the book, The Flavor Metrics, the first thing we really talk about is the science of flavor and how we experience flavor in food. And then it's all through your nose. When you take a bite of food, about 80% of what you perceive is coming from the nose. Only about 20% is represented by the tongue. your tongue's really only responsible for 6 things when you take a bite of food. Sweet, sour, bitter, salty, umami, and fat. And that's really all your tongue is reporting on. Just sort of those basic things, but we always think about taste. But the experience, the sense of taste tells us 6 things. The experience of taste is a whole combination of things that really relies so much on even what you're hearing, what your ears are reporting, how your jawbone is vibrating, what your tongue feels, as well as senses, as well as what your nose is reporting, right? So all of that information kind of processes together to create taste or flavor.
If you've ever tasted certain things and you hold your nose, you actually can't taste anything.
Right. When you guys have your coffee later, just do that one time. It's just like warm, bitter. It's like bitter water, because unless you put a bunch of sugar in it, then you'll taste the sugar, right? But everything you taste in coffee is 100% aroma. There's a little bit of bitterness that the tongue reports. Otherwise, you'll get nothing. You'll get nothing from a sip of coffee. And it just kind of shows you how important it is, and why, when we think about cooking and when we think about being creative in the kitchen, thinking about aroma and flavor in that way is so important.
Totally. Yeah.
All right, you want to capture those smells and try to and figure out ways to get them into your food, which is why we're using the mint stems and cilantro stems, because they are so fragrant and do incredible things. What do you think?
We're looking pretty good.
Oh yeah.
I can smell it.
I smell it. So the pork, just to back up a moment, as we're again talking about flavor and infusing. Well, this is one of the other things I love about sous vide, is the way we can infuse flavors into meat. So this was in a brine of garlic, ginger, scallion, and soy sauce, and really just no salt in the brine, just using the soy sauce as the salt in the brine, adding just a little bit of sugar to that to kind of balance them out. And that's it.
Awesome.
Right? Did I forget anything there?
And you're serving these on some corn tortillas.
Yes. So we're gonna make some lovely little tostadas for you guys with this, but I love it. On a corn tortilla again, right? The corn tortilla. There's a lot more aroma there. What happens in that process of nixtamalization of corn, where all of this stuff is unlocked from the corn kernels, and they become so much more aromatic and so much more flavorful in that process of transforming from corn to masa.
Yep. Awesome.
Let's see. I think
We
we're
good?
good. Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect.
How do you guys feel about that? Pretty good? I do. I mean, I'll eat. You guys don't seem too excited. You don't have to eat any. I'll eat it. So should we put together some tacos?
Yes.
Let's put together some tacos. We're gonna do our pretty picture tacos here first, and then we're gonna make some for you guys. Sound like a deal? All right.
I think that's good.
Yeah. So, and actually in the book, we do this exact same recipe, but with green peas. And so you've got that green pea coconut mint thing happening, which is really delicious as well. But it's November, though we're technically in spring weather still. So maybe the peas still would have been appropriate.
Right.
But I felt like we needed to do pumpkin instead. Okay, so we put down a little bit of our puree there. And then we'll grab our pork. Right, so, again, what I love about this is just the way this has been cooked. It is phenomenally tender, and I could pull it apart, but it still has, that structure, and it's not
holds.
like,
right.
if I hold it, it's just gonna fall into pieces. You got all of those beautiful layers of the meat and the fat.
That's amazing.
What do we got? We got 3 out there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. All right, and then we've got all kinds of.
Do you want me to take the cheesecloth off the oil?
Yeah, you can do that. If you want to use the knife to just cut the string, that'll work. So here, just for a little heat, we've got some pickled chilies. Just a very basic pickle of vinegar, sugar and salt, a little bit of garlic in the pickle. And then for a little extra texture and color, a few radishes, because, I mean, what good is a taco picture without radishes on it, right? That actually tastes pretty good as well. At ICE, we have actually a hydroponic garden where we're growing a lot of our own herbs. So we've got this beautiful little micro mint that came from the garden.
Yeah, the garden's amazing. I was pleasantly surprised the last time I went, because I hadn't been since we were in the old building.
Yeah.
And that garden is amazing.
Things have changed a little bit since you were there.
Yeah.
So at ICE, we've actually partnered with Farm One. If you guys know Farm One, they custom grow a lot of amazing vegetables for or herbs really for many restaurants all over the city, and sort of their sort of showroom is at ICE, but we have the added benefit of them growing right down the hall. So in the middle of class, if we decide we want this or that in a dish, run down, snip it right out of the rails, and bring it right back to the classroom, which is amazing. We've been growing our own lettuces there for a while. We kind of rotated out of lettuces for now, but they work.
Awesome.
It's just been a very cool experience. And again, to see kind of that whole operation just happening, at the back of a culinary school in an office building in New York City, is really exciting.
Yeah, it's really impressive.
So now I've got to call in the expert here. You gonna help me out? What else do we need to do to make this thing?
I think we need to sprinkle a couple more microgreens just around, just like a little bit. Yeah, there we go.
Yes.
Perfect. And you have your oil.
Yeah.
You want a spoon?
There was a squeeze bottle down there somewhere. Still?
I know where it is. I did just see it. Actually,
This-
I know.
You guys can come up and smell here in a minute, but the smell of this oil, just incredible mint and vegetal flavor. It's really lovely. We'll just do a little bit in here to drizzle some of our mint around.
Perfect.
Okay. A few more messy chilies, you think? Oh, look at that one landed right on top. Can you guys see that one?
Yeah.
That one that landed right there. Perfect. More cheese, right? More cheese.
They look amazing. They smell amazing.
Yes. All right. Beautiful. So I think that's it.
Thank you.
You
Awesome.
feel good about that?
Love it.